Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for helping in. My name is Ransom Nima. I'm a fourth year radiography medical student based in Nigeria. And apart from my studies, I'm also a proficient freelance medical writer. So today I have an amazing guest speaker. She's an amazing personality. Hey, Salma, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I think we really connected on, I did want to study surgery and then I had my experience with cancer. And that experience led me into social media, oddly enough, because I documented everything online. And that's how I first started getting into influencing, affiliate marketing, branding, content strategy, platform strategy. And recently I started picking up copywriting and ghostwriting because of LinkedIn. So if I could just like give a little overview, I guess that would be my overview.
Wow, amazing. We have a lot of questions, a couple of questions for you to answer for the audience. You ready? You ready, right?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, yeah. Before I ask you those questions, right? Um, I would love you to talk us through, talk us through you know, how you survived cancer because there are stages of cancer that are really dangerous. We have stage one, we have stage two, we have stage three to around stage five. So a little bit talk about how you survived the
Yeah,
cancer and then all right.
yeah. So it was really interesting because I ended up getting a cancerous tumor on my heart, and you know that heart cells don't divide. So it basically just kind of expanded without going anywhere. So they couldn't even stage me because technically the cells were kind of just stuck on my heart. They weren't able to travel anywhere. Um, they theorized that it probably happened like in vitro just because adult heart cells don't divide, but when you are developing in the womb they do. So they think it was just more of a situation where I got it in vitro, and then I had been fighting about like 20 years to get diagnosed essentially. And yeah, so it's kind of a miracle that I'm here. It's a miracle that it didn't go anywhere because, most people can't survive having cancer for like 20 years, even 10 years, because it just spreads to different areas of the body. So, knock on wood, I got really, really lucky. I got really blessed, thank God. And yeah, I did surgery. So, I did a tumor resection from my heart, and then I had heart reconstruction, and then I had chemo, radiation, and I've been good for 6 years. This year, I think this year is 6 years. Yeah. And I had to get like maintenance surgery, I guess. I had to get like a valve replaced and I had to get a pacemaker this past October. So it was pretty recent. I think that's like maybe 7 months ago at this point. So yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster since the beginning, but I've been good cancer free for about 6 years now.
Amazing, amazing. I believe that your journey, your survivor state towards cancer would and enlighten the audience is watching. Thank you so much for sharing that
Yeah,
story
yeah,
for us.
thank you.
So the first question for you goes this way. All right, so if I'm looking downwards, I'm reading the questions to Salma because I wrote down the questions on a piece of paper. All right. So the first question for you is how can you customize LinkedIn content to resonate with your target audience? Tell
Right.
us.
So I think you need to think about what the goals are for your target audience first. Like, I like to think I write for anyone that wants to build a brand they can monetize off of and create content that aligns with that brand, but also aligns with their business goals. Like, I would love to sit around all day and just write about whatever I want, but then I wouldn't get clients. So, my content discusses personal branding, writing, sales strategy, community building, and most of my inbounds and my followers are founders, fellow freelancers, and even content creators. So all of those people need branding to set them apart from their competition. Now, I do have some clients that are like, I really don't care about getting clients. I really just want to get brand deals and sponsorships. So their goal is entirely different from another client I might have who could care less about, their impressions or engagement. They just really want to get leads and inbounds. And both of those clients require vastly different strategies. So that's why I always say it's so important to know and target your ICP. I personally don't really like to work with clients who want virality because, like, I think that having a loyal and engaged community will always matter more than like random people who could care less about you, because like it's harder to get those people to support you. I've seen small creators convert and make sales more than bigger ones do. So you don't really hear me talking about virality or using trends or trending audios in my content. I'm kind of the entire opposite. I discuss community building, building trust, engagement strategies, and the importance of like doing what's best for your business and not what everyone else is doing. So, if I could put it in steps for like customizing it, I would say number one is decide what your values are, both in branding and your business. So, for example, mine are community, transparency, and experimentation. The next step I would say is to figure out what kind of clients you want to work with based on your past experiences and your business values. So, since my brand values are community, transparency, and experimentation, I don't really want to work with people who decide to do the engagement themselves because they always end up not prioritizing it enough, which makes sense because they hired me since, they don't have time to do socials. But then I'd prefer that they let me handle it because I know I'm going to be able to set aside hours in my day to actually do it for them. And that kind of reflects badly on me in the end because we're not getting the results that I would have liked to have gotten. Um, and then I also don't work with clients who want to buy followers or like to take shortcuts because, again, it's detrimental to the actual growth over time. And I also don't work with clients that are not open to experimenting, since I think that's such a vital part when it comes to forming your own style, your own branding. And having these standards then make it ridiculously easy for you to hone in on who your target audience is or even should be. Like, yes, your ICP will be someone that might need your services, but maybe they don't encompass every type of person that needs your service. So it's important to remember that you have control over who you want to work with. And you kind of need to factor that in when deciding who you want to write or create content for. So then once you have that down, then I would write down your ICP's pain points. The more you list, the easier it will be for you to make copy targeted to your ICP. And then the last step is literally just like start writing. Like take one point, solve it, and then add your CTA. I personally enjoy storytelling rather than just like throwing bullet points at people because I feel like if it's knowledge, people can just Google knowledge. We're not here looking for people to tell us things. It's more of like we're kind of looking for people to convince us through storytelling, through attaching themselves to us in some way. So I rather know how you learned, what works and what doesn't. And that way you position yourself as an experienced freelancer and not someone who read some Reddit posts or got a degree. People always prefer an experienced person versus someone that maybe has a degree but they don't have that experience, because the experienced person tends to have results and it's so easy to get someone on board if you have the results that they're looking for. Um, which then leads to my next point, which is please make sure you're including results in your posts. It's something I really neglected to do for a while. And I was so confused like, why am I not getting inbounds? Well, people love and trust results. They love case studies. They love seeing your clients' analytics. Even if you think like, oh, these stats aren't that impressive, you should still post it because your client might not even have anything close to the metrics you have. And it's better they at least see that you have some idea of what you're doing without anything to confirm, like, oh, I do this, then how would anyone know? And then I would also focus on doing one pain point per post, because once you start adding multiple points per post, I feel like it can be so easy for your reader to zone out and just scroll away. So I think it's very important to remember one point, one post, one person. So guess that's how I would end that.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. There is something you talked about that really intrigued me about something about working with, clients that buy followers. What is the implication of buying followers on social media? Talk us through
Yeah.
about that.
So it weirdly creates this like fake social proof. So, but the thing is, if you're creating content and it's already not converting, just because you have a high amount of followers doesn't mean that it's gonna be easier for you to convert. Like if I don't think it makes a huge difference because you definitely see accounts that have like thousands of followers and then you look at their likes and it's like 50 likes. If that was actually working, then those thousands of followers would be engaging with that content. Also, nowadays the algorithms really go off of if people are engaging with your content, if people are liking it, if people are sending it to other people, if they're commenting and doing all these things. So if you just have people viewing your content, or like rather bots viewing your content, they still take that into consideration. Like, okay, there's no engagement on this post and you're getting counted for all these people. That's why a lot of people think like, oh, I'll get bigger reach, but that's just not how it works, because reach nowadays is really determined on shareable content. Like, are you sharing this with your friends? Are you sharing this to your story? It really rides on that at this point, as well as saves. So like a like or a view doesn't really count the way it used to. And they also track how long you watch something. So if you do have bots and all these people aren't watching your content, it's the same thing as having 50 followers. It's really no different.
Wow, thank you so much, Sam, for talking us through the implications of, buying followers on social media by following the shortcut, by not following the ideal, road to success, and also telling us how you customize LinkedIn content that resonate with your target audience. So before I move to the second question, could you tell us how did you determine your target audience? Tell us.
So for me, I kind of just knew. I mean, for me, it's kind of easy because I do personal branding, and obviously, everybody kind of needs social branding, personal branding nowadays. I feel like, because at this point, we're in a world where everything is so hyper connected because of technology, and you can literally find whatever you need with the click of a button. Of course, there are, X amount of different donut brands, but like there's a reason why you go to one more than another. And it really just has to do with branding. Like at the end of the day, whether it tastes better or not, yeah, some people care about that, but at the it's about the branding. So now that people are kind of moving away from the 9 to 5 and they're like, I want to start my own business, I really want to start my own business, blah blah blah. If you do not know how to brand, or you don't hire someone that knows how to brand, it's going to be so hard to get your message out there unless you are like wasting all your money on ads, which, listen, ads work. It's really helpful. But again, if you don't have the branding, if you don't have that captivating force, like people are not, it's not going to convert. It's not going to work. So now more than ever, personal branding is really important. So artists need it, whether it's, singers or painters, or people that just make comics. Like every single person, if you are a small business owner, even if you have a big business, everybody's looking at who the owner is, and all those things. So for me, when I thought about it, I was like, honestly, I just started LinkedIn because I'm 6 months in now, but when I first started, it was only 1 month in, and I was like, I don't really know who I want to work with, and that's okay. But I think I'll be able to figure it out if I just keep going. So I committed myself to keep going. I was like, I'm going to at least post on here every day for 90 days, and then I can just see where I'm at. So I kept posting until 90 days. I kept going and I kept going. And even though I still have an idea of like, I'm willing to work with anyone that wants to have a personal brand, I kind of have more barriers when it comes to their attitude. Again, like if they don't like to experiment, like I don't want to work with them. If they don't trust me, like I cannot work with them. I can't work with someone that doesn't trust me. So I'm very, very open to going into different niches, going into different age groups, going on different platforms because I've built on so many different platforms. But what I'm not comfortable with is having people with a certain attitude. And unfortunately, I can't really figure that out until we get on a call. But that's why having like a free 15, 30-minute consult, or, just have a form where you ask people, like, okay, XYZ, let me know if they can't even tell you what their goals are for their business, why they want their business, then for me, it's like, I don't really think I want to work with this person. So for me, my ICP is a little bit more complex because it takes a little bit more time to figure out. But for the most part, I'm really writing to anyone that wants to start a personal brand, anyone that wants to start their own business, even because I talk about copywriting, I talk about how I opened up my own business. So I like to keep things a little bit more open ended on LinkedIn. On Instagram, it's very different. It's because it's a completely different community. It's a completely different audience. They're not going to sit and read your caption. So you kind of have to be a little bit more visually strategic. And I actually don't even really use Instagram anymore. I literally left everything, every platform for LinkedIn because I found that if you are able to utilize storytelling, if you're able to utilize or know your ICP rather, and just put them all together in a post, it's very easy to start getting leads, but you do have to be proactive, you do have to be consistent. So I think that's how it would be. But if I was someone else and I was like, I don't know who my target audience is, I would look at what the service is that I want to offer, the kind of people that need that service, um, what kind of people can afford your service too. Because there's a lot of people that do personal branding, but they all have different rates. And you could tell, like, okay, this person's probably better for doing a founder, this person's probably better for doing like a YouTuber or something. And that's something you have to ask yourself too. Like, where are my strengths when it comes to branding? What can I do that helps somebody, or another service that you have? So I think it actually starts with you. It starts with you in the beginning and what you offer and what you want to do with your business and where you want to go. So I like to start with myself, my offer, and then kind of go from there. Because once you kind of analyze your unique selling point, your demographic, and things like that, you'll be able to come up with a content strategy pretty easy. And then you'll actually know, where is my ICP hanging out? Where should I be marketing?
Absolutely, absolutely. I do agree. Thank you so much, Salma, for talking us through on how to identify, our target audience in terms of wherever, you know, specialty we're in, whether you're a freelancer, content creator, or wherever you are. This is some strategies, to identify your target audiences. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So that brings me back to the second question for you. So what are the key elements of successful marketing for a new brand? Talk us through.
Yeah. So I always feel like, personally, there are like five things you need for like your foundation, right? So the first one, we kind of went over it a little bit, was identifying your target audience. You need to analyze demographics, interest, behaviors of the people who are most likely going to be interested in your product or service. Get in their head. Like, what are they thinking? What do they fear? What makes them feel better? Where are they hanging out, both in real life and like online? What platforms are they on? What do they respond to? So for Gen Z, like, memes work really well for Gen Z. Like, that's like a joke. That's like a running joke. And I understand why. I can remember, I just missed it, but I just got into Gen Z. I remember like being in middle school, and everything was memes, like me gusta and all that stuff. So it makes sense that when people market using memes, it works. It's humor, it's funny, people get attached to it. So, but also too, like, memes wouldn't work on my mom. She's not a meme girl. Like, that would not work on her. So, by knowing your target audience, you can kind of tailor your marketing message and tactics to resonate with them. So then that increases the likelihood of a conversion. The second thing that is really important is that you need to kind of determine like what makes you special. Um, for example, my husband decided to make a business management platform. And a lot of people said, okay, well, how is this any different than Kajabi or Pipe Drive? And it's simple. Like, we have no tiers or restrictions. So for a monthly fee, you have full access with no limitations and no restrictions. And that's something that is really, really hard to find in a business management platform. Usually they'll do like, okay, if you want this plan, then you have to pay this much money, but you have restrictions. And we were just like, this is dumb. So we just have one monthly fee and you can access anything. We also offer website hosting, funnel creation, conversations throughout all platforms, and loads of other features that most CRMs and business management platforms do not have. So when I do go to market it when the time comes, I know that I'm going to heavily emphasize features that we do have that other platforms don't have. Cuz like it's so easy to find a CRM now. It's so easy. It's so easy to find another platform that can help you with, building your website, or another one that can help with funnels, but it's really hard to find one platform with a little bit of everything on it. So that was our USP. So you kind of need to find really that what is it that sets you apart from your competitors? And sometimes it's not anything other than branding. Like really, it's not anything other than branding. Victoria's Secret, they were doing great for so long. Then Rihanna came out with her own, lingerie line. They're the same thing. It's underwear. It's underwear. Like it's not revolutionary. They still have the same kind of designs, but the entire brand messaging was so different. When you watched a Victoria's Secret fashion show, like those women look awesome, but like I don't look like that. I'm never going to look like that. Are you kidding me? I love hamburgers. So for me, it was not something that I could like ever relate to. Like, yeah, you're great to look at, but like I can't feel that connection. But then, Savage Fenty came along and they had people that looked like me, people that were bigger than me, people that were smaller than me, people that were darker than me, people that were lighter than me. And it's just having that kind of diversity in your representation and kind of positioning your brand as like very inclusive is what made them so special, and why, kind of Rihanna took a lot of business from them. They even closed down their freaking fashion show and Rihanna started having her fashion show. So that goes to show like sometimes maybe you don't have a unique product, but it's the way that you market it and it's the way that you brand it that makes it so special. So that's something to also think about too, which goes into my next point, which is the clear and obvious branding. If people have a hard time remembering your business name, your logo, or its branding, then that's a problem. Like your branding should communicate your identity or your business's identity in a concise but really compelling, captivating, and obvious way. Some people are like, oh, like I'm afraid of being extra, but I'm here in my cow print hat, in my cow print jacket, and I show up to all my meetings in cow print. Like, be obnoxious if that's what you need to do, but that's going to help people remember you. And you either want to be obnoxious and remembered, or like subtle and forgotten. So it's you kind of got have to like be real with yourself and be like, okay, I'm not used to selling myself this way, but I need to. I'm not used to expressing myself so intensely, but like you need to. I think it's so funny. Say it all the time. I get so many messages a day of just cow stuff. Like people are sending me cows, people are sending me cow chairs, people are sending me like cow statues, anything cow related. People are sending that to me, and like that makes me feel great because that means like I did a good job with my branding, that people remember me for that. So your branding needs to just be super memorable. And then the other key element is establishing a good brand image. So it's not even just about your brand, but like what values does that brand have? So going back to the Rihanna concept of that inclusivity, that's really important. Like you need to be able to connect with your target audience. It's not just about having pretty colors and, making nice products. Like there still needs to be some sense of connection. And I think that is really what sets you apart from competitors. And it also kind of builds trust and loyalty with your customers, and like they'll be talking about you more than you having to market yourself. That's great. Always use your audience to market you. Like it's great. So, and to keep it consistent across all your channels, which might be hard if you have a different person managing different channels, but like that's why you have a brand kit. That's why you have like a little mood board of what your brand colors are, what the logo is, and kind of just have an established and cohesive idea of like, okay, you shouldn't be questioning whether a color or a graphic should or should not be in your branding. Like the second you see it, you should either be like, yeah, that could be included in my branding, or absolutely not, we can't do that. Like black and white works for me, and then I had some color, but let's say I was, oh, for my other businesses, black black, yellow, blue, and then another shade of blue. If like I threw a red in there, it just like wouldn't make sense because red conveys such a specific type of emotion. It's very intense, it's very passionate. It just wouldn't make sense for a business platform business, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Oh, and then also too, I didn't even finish my other points. Um, choosing the right platform is everything. So whether it's I don't care if it's TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Facebook, email marketing, or putting an ad in the newspaper, figure it out. I once had a client who had LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook set up for her businesses already. I started posting on all of them, and the only one that really popped off was Facebook, but it worked ridiculously well. And it makes sense because based on her network, based on her age, and who she was targeting her service to, it made sense. She's a real estate agent. So being on TikTok is kind of useless, honestly. Like it's not like a Gen Z or like me is going to be like, "Yeah, I'm so ready to buy a house right now." She's more so looking for people that either have money to invest into real estate or someone trying to buy a home. And so knowing which channels kind of requires you to know your target audience. And I think it's so funny how everything really goes back to that. And, I really don't believe in there being a right or wrong way to market something because it really depends on what country you're in, who you're targeting, the social climate at the time. And those things are always changing. There are some ads and campaigns that worked really well back then, but nobody would publish it now because it would cause like a lot of problems and cancellations. So I think it's really important to just be mindful of like what platform is my target audience on and what are their values, and also to what is the social climate of the area that I'm trying to sell to. And then the last thing is you really need to set and track measurable goals and like reasonable ones too, to ensure that you kind of have longevity in the business. Because if you track metrics that are tied to a goal, I think that's the best way to ensuring that your business lasts. So you can actually track the success of your marketing efforts and then you can adjust if it's not working. So the ability to be flexible and change is also super important because you can't do a rebrand or re-strategize on a business that is already closing. Some brands realize too late, like, oh, I should have had a rebrand, I should have had a re-strategize, but they didn't, and then it was kind of too late already. So I think those few points are really, really, really important when it comes to measuring the success of your marketing campaign.
You know, I really concur to all the things you said. All the instances you made. These are amazing answers to that question I asked you. I want to summarize something. Before business, you have something you're working on. You're a freelancer, you're a content writer or content creator, whatever. Before you get recommendations from people beyond your network, you're gonna be the person to make that first step. Once you make that first step to keep, bringing yourself to the word, telling the people, telling the whole word that you do this, you do that, you do that, that brings more recommendations for you, because you're being visible to the audience.
Yeah.
And you talked about being flexible with other platforms, which is an amazing stuff. That flexibility takes time, right? You're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, you're on LinkedIn. All this, activities take time. So that's why you need to be flexible and know which one that works for you. You have to focus on it. So, and that's really an amazing strategy you dropped there. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Salma. So the third question for you is, wait, hold on, before I ask you that question, what do you think is the elements for already built successful marketing brand to keep developing? What I mean is there are some successful brands out there, they're really successful. They're looking forward to, you know, you know, increasing the circle, increasing the niche, the connections, and the brands. So, in a nutshell, what are your nuggets for them, for really successful companies out there that are looking forward to diversifying, their
Yeah.
brands out there?
It's really interesting because, like, when you take the risk to kind of expand your target audience, you kind of run the risk of losing a few of your original target audience because, like, the marketing's going to be different, the campaigns are going to be different. But, like, I think if that's really where you think your business should be heading, then it is appropriate to take a loss to get more of a gain. Because, like, there's nothing worse than just like staying stagnant and just not changing or re-strategizing or even evolving, because we're always constantly evolving. So if people are constantly evolving and maybe one year Gen Z was really on top of buying this product, but then the next year they kind of moved on to something else. So now you have to think about, okay, well, once my target audience is gone, or once they evolve, or once they grow up, like, who is going to want this product, or how can we market this product in a way that is appealing to other demographics? And there are some businesses that are just going to do better at that than others, just because of the industry that they're in. So, for example, Dove had that Real Beauty campaign. I am obsessed with that campaign. I think it's so smart. I think it's so brilliant. They put a picture of an AI model next to a woman, like a regular human being. And the whole ads concept is that they're committed to real beauty and not using AI generated images, and, kind of emphasizing they really touch upon a lot of social issues just on that one campaign alone. But there's a lot of people that don't like AI. There's a lot of people that are afraid of AI. Like, as much as there are people that like AI, there's just as many, maybe even more, that really dislike it and distrust it. So you're already targeting people that don't like AI with that campaign. The second thing you're campaigning with, you're attracting with that campaign, is people that are really into how a natural woman is supposed to look and supposed to be, right? Because we're so used to, as a society, seeing these pictures of beautiful women and beautiful models, and, like, that's great, but it's just not relatable for, like, the average person. And I like that Dove is very committed to making it very inclusive. Again, like, just what Rihanna did, just, you do see a shift of brands and companies now trying to make their marketing and their product more like a relatable thing. Like, influencer marketing, even though it does well, UGC does better, because it's easier to trust a person instead of an influencer. Honestly, I know that sucks, but, like, it's true, you know? So I think that's something that they should consider. Like, maybe see who your target audience is. And for Dove, it's a little bit easier, again, because, like, who doesn't need cream? Of course I need lotion. But the way they would have handled a male campaign, for example, would have probably been way different. I don't really think men feel any type of way about unrealistic beauty standards, because they're not the ones that really have to deal with it on the magnitude that women have to deal with it. And especially now that we're seeing more and more, like, AI generative art of women, and they look great because that's how art has always been. They've always tried to highlight the perfection of humans, but it's just not realistic. So you do notice a lot of brands starting to head more towards an inclusive, sustainable, ethical kind of positioning, which isn't really something like you see a lot. Like, this is a really big change in how things are being marketed, and why personal branding is getting even more and more important, because eventually people are going to be like, well, I don't want to hire this agency. I kind of rather hire this person. Like, I like their branding. I like the way they did their stuff. So I think that's where I would start. But as far as other things go, the only thing you can really do is take that risk, do market research. You can spend money on ads, you can do surveys and things like that to prepare, but, like, you're never going to know how a campaign performs until, like, it's out. And that's kind of what sucks about it. Like, you can plan all these things, but unless it's, like, very predictable, like with the Real Dove campaign, like the Real Beauty Dove campaign, it's hard to know. Because if they came out with that campaign in a world where, like, AI was very normalized, it wouldn't hit the same. It just wouldn't hit the same. So you kind of have to make sure the timing is right. You got to consider the social climate. you definitely have to track your metrics and try to consider where your target audience right now is headed and who would replace your target audience if you could no longer market to them, right? Because like Dove can be marketed to young girls too. They can be marketed to Gen Z, but there's a reason why they decided to go in the direction they did.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Summer. Um, that was an amazing answer to that question, and I believe that the audience are really, enlightened on that question, on that answer you shared based on that question I asked you. So, that brings me back to the third question for you. So, in a nutshell, could you share some of the mistakes, companies out there make in their marketing strategies and how they can avoid them? Tell us.
Right. So a huge thing I noticed is like campaign overspending, which honestly, if it's a good campaign, then you won't have to spend so much on advertising because your audience will kind of do it for you and people will write articles about it. People will post Instagram stories about it. Word of mouth is always the most powerful part of a campaign. So I do think, like for the Stanley tumblers, for example, like that's all influencer marketing. That's all even UGC marketing. And I don't think they paid a lot of those people. It's just become such a hype item. But in case you don't have influencer marketing, then what you can do is make a checklist for your budget and budget each task that needs to be handled. So it would also be smart to set campaign goals and financial ones too. And to check in regularly what needs to be done, or else you're going to make the second mistake, which is your campaign not launching on time, and that's happened to me. Um, Not my fault, but it's happened. I've been in a situation where I was influencing for a brand, and the launch happened way later than expected. And not only did they lose money this way, but like time is money itself. So not only are you losing results, but like you're losing revenue and all the work you just did. And again, the solution is just to plan way better. Create a project outline, set key performance indicators, set a budget, decide on distribution through channels, and check up on that progress regularly. Because I think really the most time consuming part is creating the content needed for all your campaigns, all the advertising. So just make sure that is ahead of time and everything else can catch up. But like if your content is not ready, that's easily one of the worst things ever. Not tracking metrics, which we kind of discussed before, so I won't go too deep into it, but the solution is simple: track your metrics. And if you suck at analyzing metrics, it's totally okay. I was not the best at it in the beginning, but you got to get a course. You can do it. You can learn. Um, Another one would be, oh no, targeting the wrong audience. I've had that happen again. You can have the perfect campaign, the perfect sales copy, an amazing funnel, but if you don't have the right eyes in front of it, it's all literally pointless. It's money flushed down the drain. It's time and effort flushed down the drain. That's literally like, you know, performing. Oh my God, this is messed up. Actually, I'm not even going to use that analogy. It's literally like holding a sign outside on an empty street. Like, ain't nobody going to see the sign. Like, nobody's going to see the sign. So it's just really useless. The reality is that every customer segment is really unique. No two groups are going to respond to an offer in the same way because some people are looking for one thing and someone else might be looking for something completely different. So that's why, again, I mentioned before the one post, 1.1 person thing. Like all your posts should really be targeting a specific person. It's totally okay if you're someone like me that's like, okay, but I have writers, I have this, I have that, I have so many different people in my audience, but then make one post a week dedicated to one person specifically in your target audience. It needs to be tailored, it needs to be personalized. And I think this is why most consumers become frustrated when content isn't tailored to them. Research what customers care about. I suggest using surveys and questionnaires to directly connect with your customers. Google Forms is a great tool for this. You can ask questions about their purchasing experience, their interests, their pain points, and needs. You can also use, honestly, Google Analytics to collect customer data. So, like, you don't even need that survey.
Wow, 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 wow. Hmm. You really narrated some of the mistakes, companies out there, make in their marketing strategies, and you also, gave some strategies on how to avoid them. And I believe that most of the founders that are going to watch this video, you know, that own some companies you're running, or you have a business you're running, and you're making some mistakes, that some, highlighted, based on your marketing strategies. And she also, gave some strategies for you to avoid them. So you have to heed to those strategies so you can avoid all those, mistakes, in your marketing strategy. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Salma. So the fourth question for you is, how do you balance voice control and ghostwriting content for different clients? In a nutshell, could you tell us?
Yeah. So when I ghostwrite, I kind of just like, it's very psychological. I just kind of imagine myself leaving myself at the door. I don't really like to bring any of my own personality or any of the work that I do for my other clients. I don't like it to cross. Um, and of course, that's not an easy thing to do. And I really don't believe everyone can be a ghost writer or can ghostwrite well, because if I can hear your voice and you did not accomplish your job, like, it really should sound like your client wrote it. It should be no indication that you're there. Um, so to be a good ghostwriter, I think it requires one of two things, right? You either have to know the person really, really well, because if you know someone really well, you know exactly what they say, you know their favorite foods, you know a bunch of their stories. Or you have to be good at reading people and then imitating them. I usually hop on a call with someone for like an hour. I ask some personal questions. I ask some about their career, how they got into it, why they got into it. I ask about their childhood, their family, lots of personality questions, like the ones the Myers Briggs tests ask. It's like, are you an introvert? And a bunch of other stuff. If they like to read, what if they do, what kind of books do they like to read? Like, I get pretty personal with it, because I think that's how you're actually going to be able to know who someone is. And I'm very, very big on recording the conversations, because if I were to just give them a form, they're not going to write the way they talk. It's a very hard thing to do. And so I really like to get on a call with them, or, meet them in person, because I live in New Jersey. There's a lot of people here. So a lot of people from my same state ask for copywriting services. I like to meet them in person. It's like you could tell a lot about people when you meet them in person. Um, so that's what I personally like to do. I think for everyone, they kind of have a different process, but I know for the most part, a lot of it is interviewing someone, having questions ready that, at this point, once you start doing it, you kind of know what questions to ask intuitively. Um, and a lot of the times, too, if you're kind of showing up with a good attitude, sharing with them and being vulnerable, like, they're going to do the job for you. I've had some people that just like come in and it's like a therapy session. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't mind that. So I think a lot of it has to just do with how easily, how easy is it for you to kind of like take off your identity and kind of slip into someone else's. And I have like a weird trick. I really don't like to write for more than one person in a day. So let's say I have 7 days in a week. I have 5 clients. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll write for each of them, and I'll try my best to do at least 2 to 3, even sometimes even 4 weeks of content already scheduled and done for them. So then the rest of the month, I just have to work on my content. So it's pretty easy. I mean, I like my job. But for my social media marketing and management clients, it's kind of a bit different, because they actually want me to post for them. So that's a little bit more hands on. But I do think that it does come with a lot of practice. Like, the first time, it's going to be difficult for you to like kind of figure out the questions, and that's okay. Like, just roll with it, challenge yourself. It's okay if you need to edit it, it's okay if it takes you some time. The first time I did it, like it wasn't that great, but it's just with more experience that you kind of learn how to do it.
That was a perfect answer to that question. And thank you so much for sharing how you balance, voice control and you ghost writing content for a different clients out that you work with. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and I believe that other ghostwriters and other, content creators out there, who write and create content for, a different, clients can as well follow your rhythms as well, while writing for different clients as well. So talk us through about the next question. In a nutshell, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and changes in marketing and in marketing strategies in general? Talk us through.
So I follow a lot of YouTubers, a lot of TikTokers, Instagram, social media, management pages, and I read a lot of books. I'm also a big course person. When I first started in social media, I think it must have been like 2015, 2016. Like it was early. There was no mentors. There were no social media, mentors. There was nobody telling you how to do anything. So I really had to figure out a lot of it by myself and it was not easy. So now I'm someone that is very big on getting courses. I'm like, listen, the resources are there. Use Google, use whatever you need to do, get into communities. I think it's so important to get a mentor who is where you want to be within the next 5 years, is what I always say. Or if you're someone that's just starting out and you're like, well, I can only look like 1 year ahead of time, get someone that is where you want to be in a year then. That's totally fine. I truthfully prefer books because, like any ding dong, can press post and say whatever they want and mislead you. But that's also why I like to test out advice that's given to me. um, Personally, I feel at this point, because I've been doing it for so long and I experimented so much, that I find the changes before others do. And then I adjust my strategy based on what I think it could have been that caused the restriction in reach. For example, LinkedIn hates links in their posts because it takes people away from LinkedIn. That makes total sense, but let's say you didn't know about that. What you can do is take one post and post it with the link, take that same post and post it without the link at the same hour on the same day with the same text, and that's it. And then just see how it performs. And you'll notice that they both perform very differently. So I think it's just, you really have to be willing to experiment, because someone can tell me something and yeah, that might work for them, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for me and my community, because every community is so different and every single group markets and likes different things. So I think you just got to be willing to experiment. That's really the gist of it, because even by the time that someone notices the changes and reports on it, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn, whatever, it already happened. Like it's already too late. But if you are constantly experimenting with, your character limit, or because there is a format that LinkedIn really likes. Like they do like a certain amount of characters, they do like a certain amount of lines, and I personally don't follow that. Like, you know how I write. Like I just write it like it's my blog. I don't really care. And I still experienced growth though. So I don't really believe in trends and following them. I kind of break everything. And I'm like, well, even though I might not have 10K followers, like I'm very happy with my 5K followers, and like they're engaging with my content. If I release something, they're signing up for it. Like it's that loyalty that really matters more to me. So I never really suggest following trends. You can definitely follow changes. Definitely follow changes. Like be aware of what's going on. There's always people writing articles. You literally just have to Google it or YouTube. YouTube's kind of better because it's long form content, so they'll actually go very in depth. But there's even newsletters that go over changes in different platforms. So Google's your best friend. Finding someone that can mentor you or has a course, even better. Someone that's probably been doing it like really long is very helpful. Going out and finding books from people that are reputable, There's a lot of Facebook groups, or even just like groups in general, accounts on Instagram that'll tell you all the secrets about Instagram. They'll like just tell you. They'll tell you how to make content. They'll tell you what Instagram prefers format wise. So don't feel lost, because all you have to do is go on the internet and you will find your answer. I promise you. But just also, whatever advice you get, be willing to experiment with it, be willing to break the rule and see what happens, be willing to do your own thing, try your own styles. Like, hey, LinkedIn also hates emojis. And you know me, I freaking love emojis. Like, I litter my posts with emojis and I still grow. So I think just do what feels right for you, and like the right people will come to you. So that's what I would suggest.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Wow. Salma, you've been an amazing guest speaker thus far,
Yay.
and I believe that, you know, the audience are really, enlightened by your narratives on those questions, and you're a very busy person, so you're really time conscious right now. You're very, very busy. So, um, we're gonna stop here right now. So, in a
Awesome.
nutshell, what are your last word for the audience for wrap up the session?
Yeah. It's, be patient. I think a lot of people quit before it really starts picking up. In my experience, if you're someone that's not spending any money on ads, if you're someone that's like, I'm organically growing, you need to give it 3 months minimum to even like get one step ahead. But then wait until 6 months. Like, you just got to keep going with it. I think my first 3 months were like dead silent on LinkedIn, and same with Instagram, and same on every platform that I've been on, because you should be taking that time to familiarize yourself with the platform, go out and network with people, find out what is your style, break some rules, adhere to some rules, just experiment those first 3 months. And after those 3 months, I want you to be like, okay, this is the kind of style that I want. These are the kind of emojis that I want to be used in my thing. If you want to use emojis, or if you're someone that's like, I don't want to use emojis, fine, live your life, but just figure out what is going to help you be able to post every day. And I think that's important. I think a lot of people are making content that like doesn't speak to their soul, or like they don't enjoy making, and then they end up having to force themselves to create content that they're not even excited to make. So that's a huge advice that I would give. Like, figure out what actually is going to help you continue to post, because it's probably the most important thing. Like, you can worry about the quality later. You can worry about bringing it later, but until you get yourself used to posting every single day, and it doesn't matter how much you strategize, it doesn't matter how much you plan. If you're not there every day, if you're not in front of your audience every day, it's absolutely meaningless, because the algorithm also likes someone that's posting every single day. For me personally, I batch create my content and then I'll schedule it at least 2 weeks ahead, because I just don't like the pressure and the feeling of like, okay, I need to write something, I need to engage for an hour, I need to do this, I need to do that. Just find that really overwhelming. So if you're someone that's like, I need separate days to do different things, that's totally fine. That's how I operate. But then actually stick to that. Like, say, I'm going to make 5 posts today and schedule them, but like actually sit down, do the 5 posts. And then after that, you could like zone out, do whatever you want, go have ice cream, whatever. So I think it's just more of just be patient, experiment, be willing to feel behind, be willing to feel stupid. Like, it's totally okay. It's so normal. Be accepting of being cringe. Like, yeah, maybe it's cringe, but at least you had the bravery to put yourself online. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. So celebrating those little things, like, oh my god, I showed up today. That's so important. Or, oh my god, one person liked my post. Like, that's really important. Like, that's one person that has a whole life, has dreams, has a future going on. Like, just one person showing up means so much. So I think if we start looking at content in that way, then people won't feel so stressed out about it. People won't feel so anxious about it. Like, have fun. You should be having fun. And even if you're someone that's like, I'm a business person, I hate writing content. Well, if you really love your business, then you should be passionate about writing about it. Like, don't view it as like, oh my God, I have to write. Like, be like, yeah, I'm so happy I get to write about my business. Like, I'm so lucky I have this business. And that attitude alone, just having that reframe is going to help you look at content in a completely different way. It's going to make you actually invest your time into it or pay someone else to do it. That's totally fine too. But there's a lot of business people, a lot of people on LinkedIn that are just doing it by themselves. They're doing everything by themselves because they don't have the money to outsource it. So the best thing for you to do with that is make sure you're having fun with it. Make sure you're enjoying it, and make sure you are enjoying it and experimenting, make sure you're tracking. Like, don't just blindly go in without a strategy. You can do that for the first 3 months, but after the first 3 months, start thinking about, okay, after these 3 months, I noticed that X amount of people interact with my content and they all work in this field, for example. And then you can kind of go from there and be like, okay, so this is my ICP right now. Do I want that to be my ICP? Do I want to change up my strategy? If I do want to change my strategy, what kind of content would my ICP like? And if that's something you struggle with, you can always go to a consultant because there's loads of us, you can always ask me like, hey Sal, I'm really struggling with finding my target audience for my product, blah, 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 blah. And then we can sit down and we can figure it out. You're never really alone, especially on LinkedIn. Like, people are so nice. Like, just ask for help. Like, people are very willing to help you. And if they are not willing to help you, they'll either ignore you, which is fine. You can go ask someone else, or they'll suggest someone for you to go to. And, I've done that plenty of times. If I wasn't able to do something for someone or consult with someone, I'll always suggest someone else to them that is within the same price range or have, the same expertise as I do. So just don't be afraid to ask people because they're a lot more willing to help. Yeah. So I guess the main message is not, you can feel scared. It's okay to feel scared. It's normal to be scared. It's normal to be anxious, but like, don't let it control you. Don't let it rule you. Don't let it hold you back or like determine how you're going to act in this situation. Just kind of remember that things are meant to play out the way it's supposed to play out. So just relax. Like, it'll work out if you just continue to try and go for it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Salma, for sharing that knowledge for the audience. So, on to the last session of this amazing podcast interview with Salma. So if you love this content, do to subscribe, like, and share to your network, and hopefully someone in your network will really, really adore this video. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much.